Hey guys, got here. I can't sleep, so I want to talk about something, as I tend to do in most of my videos, about the hardest killer to actually play in Dead by Daylight, because I feel like a lot of people just go directly for Nurse there, and then they use that as sort of a justification for, like using double range, like super broken shit on Nurse, and they're like, well, she's the hardest killer to play, so it's okay that she's like, kind of just ignores the whole game and all that. And I think I understand why that's the case. And the reason is because Nurse has the highest skill floor. But highest skill floor does not imply she's the hardest killer to play. She's the hardest killer to achieve basic results with, I think. And I think that's why a lot of people consider her to be the hardest. And there was one point where I thought Nurse was the hardest too until I actually tried playing her for a couple weeks. And no, she's actually really not that hard at all. She has a decently high skill floor, but her skill ceiling is not much higher than the floor. And that is one of the reasons that I think people think she's so hard, because for a new player, or even like a decently advanced player, a skill floor can kind of mimic as a skill ceiling. So in terms of like what that actually means for DBD, it's basically a skill floor is how long it takes you to get to a point where you can achieve results with the killer and like win. It's not like you can't just say how easy it is to play the killer, because I mean you can play anything and not have any idea what you're doing. So it has to be there has to be a qualifier, and it's basically how long it takes you to pick up the killer to be able to get decent results with it. I'm not saying you've mastered, you're undefeatable or anything like that. It's just how long it takes you to get decent results. And yeah, it takes a decent amount of time for Nurse because she doesn't play Dead by Daylight. Nurse might as well just launch the game with a different file. It shouldn't even be Dead by Daylight shipping 64.exe or whatever. It should just be nurse.exe, because she is a completely separate killer. She doesn't play the main game. She doesn't really adhere to any of the mechanics of Dead by Daylight. So yeah, she's just entirely separate, and that's why a lot of newer players will think she's the hardest killer to play, because she completely ignores all the aspects of the actual game. But once you've mastered how far her blink goes, that's pretty much it. Also, I don't know what the bill was doing in that video. Um, once you like get the muscle memory down of her blinks, that's the only thing you have to learn. You don't have to learn how to properly run tiles or how to moonwalk or how to like have map control. You don't really have to learn anything else. You just have to learn the muscle memory of a blink, and then that's it. And so once you've passed that skill floor with Nurse, you kind of hit the ceiling a lot faster. Now, I'm not saying you're going to be a master unstoppable Nurse a couple of games later or anything like that. She is, to get to the tippy top level, it's obviously a lot harder. But to get pretty damn good results and win almost every single one of your games, it's really not that hard. It's just all muscle memory with blinks, and then that's it. Like a killer that's actually really hard to master is going to be like, if you want to go with like the whole competitive option, I'll say Blight. Blight is a killer where you have to still play the game, but you also have to learn your killer, learn how your power interacts with every single loop. You have to learn which tiles you can bounce off of to get a hit at which areas, which tiles you can slide off of, which tiles you can slide off of with a different direction facing up or down, how to slide on purpose. I mean, there are so many little nuances to Blight that make him significantly harder to get the same results as Nurse, but you can get nearly the same results if you're a Master Blight, which indicates that his skill ceiling is a lot higher. However, to me, I think the hardest killer to play in the entire game is Hillbilly. I've played every killer in this game, and the one I've struggled the most with actually getting good results is Billy. And that's because he's not nearly as good as he used to be as well. But I think the skill it takes to accurately know exactly how far you need to curve, and the actual mechanical control over a curve, and then being able to aim that properly with the insane sensitivity, and just being able to keep track of all the tiles and exactly where you have to turn around. I struggle the most with him in my entire time playing Dead by Daylight. I find Billy to be the absolute hardest killer to master. Not to the skill floor of Billy's not very high. You can just use his chainsaw for mobility and do decently, and then just back rev people. It's not that hard. But actually mastering Hillbilly, I think, is genuinely the hardest thing in the entire game. So if I had to give my opinion on that, Hillbilly is the hardest killer to actually master, followed by Blight, and Nurse would be much further down than that. So I just want to kind of get rid of that whole mentality where it's okay that, like, Omega Blink Nurse exists because she's hard to play. She's really not that hard to play. Or at least not hard enough to play to justify how horseshit something like Omega Blink is. So that's pretty much it. I just want to go over that. Basically, Billies are all Chads. End of story.